In the last podcast, when we talked about how to do a read-through of the script upon the first meeting of the whole cast, we went through all of the things that the actors themselves, by intuition, will be wanting to do that are harmful for the play, that are harmful for the production. And so we discussed the things that you do to keep bad things from happening. But also in that same podcast, we discussed the things that have to do with benefits you get. And there are a number of benefits you get by having the first read-through done, where nobody reads their own lines. They read other roles that they're not going to play. And in the previous podcast, we discussed what its intent is and what the values are of doing it in the way that I have suggested it should be done. This is what is the first segment of rehearsals. If these segments are not done in this order, all kinds of chaoses can come out. In life, every single thing that exists is procedural. Anything that is done in which the procedure is not followed and instead is changed so that what you're supposed to do second is done third, what you're supposed to do fifth is done second. All of those things are going to cause a less successful and probably totally unsuccessful, actually, if you really want to look at it, performance before an audience. The second segment is going to be a rehearsal period that includes more than one night of rehearsals. For a full-length play, it may be 3 or 4 nights. In that second segment, you first of all talk about the things that I've shown you in earlier podcasts the director needs to do for himself, and that is understand every element of the play. So here with the whole cast, in the second segment of rehearsals, what we're going to do is first of all ask them, what does the title mean? What do the names of their characters imply? What is the setting and its ramifications to the dramatic meaning of the play? All the elements that we have previously talked about in prior podcasts that the director needs to know. Now, the cast needs to know these things. For a 3-act play like The Three Sisters by Chekhov, it probably will take 4 nights, 3 to 4 hour rehearsals, 4 nights in a row. And you start by talking about what's the name of the play, what does it mean, what are its ramifications, what does it mean by sisters, what is the actual psychological circumstance that the place in life that the 3 sisters currently inhabit means. Who are the other people? What are their names? Why are they named there? Why is this set where it is? What are the social circumstances? All of those things you will discuss at the beginning of the first rehearsal of the second segment. But that will not take the whole second segment. Instead, what that's going to do is take up maybe an hour and a half or 2 hours. From that point on, you start having the lines read line by line, each person reading their own lines, telling them you don't want them to act the moment yet. All you want them to do is read the line for its meaning. Now, if the first line of the play is, "Darling, I'm home," I then will ask the person who just read his first line and the first line of the play, which means what? Now, 2 or 3 elements are very important in terms of making sure that the hypotheses that the actors are brought to are logical. The first of these is the recognition that nobody says anything just to talk. That's not how human beings behave. That's not how they behave. Talking is the end result of a whole psychological process, which includes an experience by the person who's going to talk and a necessity of that person, to a greater or lesser extent, to describe or to express what it is he's talking about. Now, his necessity of talking at that moment comes from whatever psychological circumstance he is in. And almost always, in any conversation between human beings, what somebody says is in relationship to what was just said to him previously. Or, if nothing was said to him previously, what is happening that makes him say this? Now, this whole segment is carried through line by line in the whole play. Everyone who's in the cast is there, and they're going to sit through long moments of time where people are being asked questions by the director, which are intended to lead that actor to his own discovery of what that line means dramatically, not what the words mean strung together verbally. The verbal meaning is always wrong in relation to the dramatic element of the play. It is not a proper recognition of what it is that the play is doing, what the person is doing, what the circumstances are at that moment. So the husband who comes in and sings out, "Darling, I'm home," will say that dependent upon where he's been, what he's been doing, and his psychological necessity to impart what he's been doing to his wife. If he's been doing something that he does not want her to know about, he will say that differently than if he's been doing something he does want her to know about. But it is never just a statement of fact. Guess what, darling, I'm home. That's never what it means. So every line in every play has a dramatic reality. Now, this is segment 2 of the rehearsal period, and it takes 2, 3, 4 nights, depending upon the length of the play. Examples of how this process is done by the director are shown in the previous podcasts. One, which deals with the poem by Matthew Arnold called Dover Beach, and it takes that poem as if it were a speech in the play, not a monologue, because it's not just done to himself, but a speech in the play where he's talking to someone. Under that assumption, you can then say, who is the character, what is he like, where is he, what does he have in mind, why does he say each line of the poem? So how the director deals with that is exemplified in that podcast. Following that are 2 podcasts which deal with how the director asks questions of his cast members if the play were Lunchtime by Leonard Melfi. And you will see in both of those podcasts, one directly following the other, what it is that the director does to lead the actor to the actor's own discovery of what it is that they need to know before they can do anything else. They have to know why the person says this line, what are the circumstances that cause it, before they can possibly know how to say it. If this is not done, the actors will make up their own ideas of how lines are supposed to be said, and many times they will delight themselves with something that's totally wrong for the play, but they loved hearing themselves say it that way so much, you'll never get them out of doing that. So you never let them do that in the first place. First in the read-through, as I mentioned in that whole description of how a read-through must be done. Then in the first rehearsals, which are part of the second segment of rehearsal. Now, as I mentioned before, where you place the people is always beneficial to be a kind of a nebulous arrangement as far as they're concerned. I always use a semicircle in the middle of the stage, the farthest point upstage being the midpoint in the semicircle. The third segment of rehearsals begins with everybody sitting in the same place that they were sitting in the first segment, which is the read-through, and the second segment, which is by and large mostly line-by-line analysis of the meaning of each line of the play. The third segment represents a next read-through. This, by the way, will not take 4 nights. What you're doing there is watching to see if they can still not act, but read with logic, the logic of the character in the situation, the line as the line's dramatic meaning exists. You do that for 2 reasons. You do it to imprint upon the mind of the actor what he did the previous night, and then it's also to give him a chance to start voicing the line like an actor does, not just reading it out with no intuitive responses whatsoever. For a full-length play, it would be good to do, if it's 3 acts, the first act, then to take a break, and then the second act, and to take another break, and then the third act. Now, in these early rehearsals, where all the people are called to rehearsal, even though they may not be in the early parts of the play, you make sure that they understand, that you understand, that what they are doing to sit and listen for actors is a bit tedious. And if they will do you a favor, take a deep breath, relax themselves as they go, and try to listen to what's being done, then when it comes their turn, because they're now in the scene that you're dealing with, they will do what it is that they're supposed to do. You will notice that in the third segment, as they're reading the lines for reality, actors will tend to now start changing their physicality from just sitting flat in a semicircle. They'll turn their head and they'll speak the line to whom in the play it's intended. They will now speak the line to the actor or actress who is playing the role that the line is intended for when the person speaks, when the actor speaks, when his character speaks. And you will notice that they actually start playing dramatic moments to each other. They're not trying to. That will happen as you are trying to get them to make sure that they have imprinted upon their minds what's in the second rehearsal. And by the way, if they read a line which does not have what you led them to understand in the second segment, where it's line-by-line analysis, you don't say, hey, no, that's not what that meant. You say, oh, excuse me, wait a minute, yeah. What was it we said was happening to her or to him at that moment? And then the person will answer you because they will remember what you talked about and the answers to the questions that you led them to come up with. And you'll say, well, you just read the line then. Did it incorporate the kinds of things you discovered yourself last night? And then you say, okay, well, it's no big deal. We got a long rehearsal period ahead of us. If you want to, you can go back and read it again now that you're more in touch with what it was that you discovered in the prior rehearsal. And as I said, they will, in that third segment of the rehearsal period, start to, you'll see their bodies leaning toward and looking at or looking around over their shoulder. They're not supposed to get up out of the chair. You've told them. Just sit and read it from the chair that's in a semicircle. And the whole play is then read through in relation to that. Again, this should take at most 2 nights. But if you have done the second segment of rehearsals well, this third segment should only take 1 night. So now comes the fourth segment of rehearsals. Again, the whole cast is there. Again, the people sit where they're sitting in the same place that they've been sitting in that semicircle and every other thing. But you will say to them, you know, last night when we read through, I saw that some of you, when something was said for you, you kind of turned yourself away in your chair, or you leaned in to make the point. Now, tonight, I'm not saying this because I want everybody wandering around the stage. But tonight, if you are impelled by what you're saying to move toward that person, feel free to get up out of your chair and move to that person. And if you're impelled once you get to be by that person to kneel in front of them, you can kneel. If you're impelled to sit on the floor in front of them, so you can sit on the floor. If you're impelled to walk around behind the semicircle form and speak to them over the shoulder, feel free to do that. But you must be impelled by what's happening. What you have done now is given them the freedom of movement through which to express their intuitive responses to the dramatic material which they have learned how each line fits into, and you let them move. If you see people are just moving because somebody else is moving, just say, "Where are you going?" "Well, I want to walk." Why? What in what you were just dealing with that's in the play made you want to do that? I don't know. Well, if you don't know, then don't do it. If the man is trying to seduce the girl, you don't seduce somebody from across the stage. You have to go up. You might want to go around behind the semicircle, lean over, say something gently in her ear to try to provoke a response, a seductive response. If you are angry with someone because of what they've done to you, by their line being said to you in a certain way that insults you or otherwise upsets you, then you want to go and face that person down. Go face that person down. Now, all of this movement has nothing to do with actual touch of the other people. You might as well consider that they're all full of poison ivy. You don't go touch somebody. You don't go lean on their back. You don't go pushing them around or shaking hands or anything else. It's not a time to start being physical with the other people at all. It's only to release you from the bonds that sitting in the chair up to this point has caused. And you'll find that through your intuition, based on your now knowledge of what the moments of the play mean and what the lines mean when they're spoken dramatically, it will impel you to move somehow. If somebody embarrasses you and where you're sitting in the semicircle is downstage right and they're sitting center stage, but they embarrass you, you can get up and walk away. Turn your back to them. Whatever you feel. I don't want you playing anything like stage crosses where people always waltz across the stage. "Now I'll give you my back." None of that theatrical crap. Just if you feel compelled to move away from them, move away. If you feel compelled to turn your face away, turn your face away. If you feel compelled to turn your whole body away, turn your whole body away. But otherwise, don't try to illustrate what you think the lines mean, what you should know by now the lines mean, by "this behavior will really show you I'm feeling it," or all of those phony acting impulses that every actor has because he wants to be dynamic and dramatic. Don't do any of that. Move to the degree that you're impelled to move or do not move. This is the fourth segment of rehearsals. In this, I would expect it will take 2 nights because what you want to do is have the exact same process done 2 nights in a row where you can corral people who are just having impulses to wander around because they think it's interesting. And you can encourage those people who are too shy, movement physically. They're too shy to take it on their own to move now. "Betty, I saw you leaning toward him when he smiled at you. Does that make you want to get closer to him?" If it doesn't, stay where you are. But if it does, you could kind of walk over there in whatever way you're feeling now makes you feel like you should walk. The worst thing that can happen, certainly in early moments of the play, that many directors do, is to put people on stage and start blocking them. In that process, it is an imbecilic intrusion into the actor's work at that point to say, "On this line, turn your back, walk away to the edge of the couch and sit." All the kind of crap that directors who don't know what they're doing have actors doing to move around the stage in what they think will be interesting visually are totally phony. And if you've ever been to a play before in your whole life and you see actors moving that way, you are aware, well, that's where the director told him to move now. The director is not supposed to block a play. What blocks the play is now starting to be developed in what is the next segment of rehearsals, which is the 5th segment of rehearsals. The director is not supposed to block a play. What blocks the play is now starting to be developed in what is the next segment of rehearsals, which is the fifth segment of rehearsals. Again, the whole cast is there. You read through the whole play. But when they come in that night, instead of there being a semicircle, you put boxes or chairs or lamps or little tables on stage where the set is going to have furniture. Now, when the people come in that night, you, who will have known what the set is going to look like if you have done your work by talking to the set designer long before you have the first rehearsal period, you'll know where the entrance to the bedroom is, where the exit of the house onto the garden is that up center? Where the sofa is, what is going to be in the room. You will tell all the actors, you won't have the set, you won't have the furniture, you won't have the props. You're less than 2 weeks into rehearsal. But what you will do is say, these 3 chairs here represent the sofa. That upturned box, or that upturned stool, represents the lamp. At the other end of the sofa, that box represents a side table. These are fairly correctly placed where they're going to be placed when you have all of the actual set built and finished. So when you start, you let the 4 people who are on stage sit anywhere they want or stand anywhere they want. The other people in the first act who come on in the first act, just put them upstage right, upstage left, let them stand there and watch. And when they enter, you have shown where the exit to the bedroom is. If they enter from there, then they should go over and enter from there. But again, you do not tell them where to move or how to move. You say, now last night, and maybe the night before, if it was 2 rehearsals, we had you released from the bonds of sitting in the semicircular chairs and told you if you were impelled by what was going on with you at that moment, with your understanding of the moment from recognizing what your lines mean and how they fit into the play dramatically, that you wanted to move. So now, instead of moving to somebody where they were sitting in the semicircle, move to where they are on the stage. Therefore, blocking will be done character to character, not character to where the director told me to sit. If, for instance, the man who comes in and says, darling, I'm home, comes in downstage right, which is the entrance to their apartment, he'll know that that's it, you will have told him, and she comes out the upstage left entrance, which is from the bedroom, she'll know that she's coming in, the play will have told her, from the bedroom. So now you don't have to tell her where to go. What she will do, if she's now going to confront him, because he's 3 hours late and she cooked a nice dinner and it's now all ruined, she is going to know, I'm coming in there, upstage left, he's coming in downstage right. She'll know to cross to him to the degree that she wants to confront him. So in that sense, they never move anywhere because the director told them. They move to or from, they lean in towards or lean back away from whoever they have felt the need to do that in the prior rehearsal where you didn't let them move around the stage. So this is the 5th segment of rehearsals. Through all of these segments, which could be 10, 12 days, everybody has been called. After you now have them moving around on an approximate set, after that, you don't call everybody for every rehearsal. So now to review. The first segment of rehearsals is a one-night read-through, as previously described. The second segment of rehearsals is going to take maybe it'll definitely take at least 2 nights, 2, 3, or 4 nights. It is the segment where everybody learns what the elements of the play are dramatically and how the lines fit into those dramatic elements of the play. The third segment is where you watch to see how much of what you have brought them to understand that they have discovered by your questioning are the dramatic moments of the play and how those dramatic moments infect the lines they're saying. The degree to which all of that work has been done appropriately, you simply in segment 3 watch to see that all of the things that they learned before they remember tonight, and you gently remind them by questioning. What was it we said that meant last time? To let them try to find their way through their own memory and their own previous night's reasoning process Yeah, now I know what it was. Now the actors, because they're actors, are going to want to play to each other. But you don't let them get up and move around. But you tell them if you want to turn to the person there or you want to lean in, they on themselves will start saying their line to the person who they're supposed to say it to in the play. They're not going to just say it up in the air. They're actors. They know it has to do with the other person. So they'll say it to them. The fourth segment is a segment where now you allow them to block themselves so that when the play is in front of an audience, all the movements around the stage will be organically produced. If in your, quote, staging, unquote, later you see that when the wife comes in from the bedroom, which is upper right, if she comes all the way to him, she's liable to slap him, and the play doesn't call for that. So now you just tell her, come in like you've been doing, and you start to shape the play visually by the psychological reality at hand, not by telling her to stop by the edge of the sofa. You can even ask her in the rehearsal period, okay, go ahead. Now, when do you feel like you want to stop? Whenever you feel like you want to stop, then stop. Now, whatever happens then, it wouldn't matter if a wall of the set fell over in performance. The people are going to still behave with each other logically and appropriately, and we will have what George Bernard Shaw says, the whole purpose is to make it look like real people are doing real things. And of course, as I said before, the fifth segment of rehearsals is one in which the people are moving around the stage in the approximation of what the stage setting, which has been designed for this play, for this production, will be. 3 chairs mean a couch, an upturned table means a lamp, whatever else. If these segments are not done in this order, all kinds of chaoses can come out. In life, every single thing that exists is procedural. Anything that is done in which the procedure is not followed and instead is changed so that what you're supposed to do second is done third, what you're supposed to do fifth is done second. All of those things are going to cause a less successful and probably totally unsuccessful, actually, if you really want to look at it, performance before an audience. Actors live by their intuition, but their intuition is like a thoroughbred horse. It has to be ridden. When it's being ridden, it's being guided. The actor is the thoroughbred horse, and the director is the jockey.